Yo, yo.
Yo, what up, dude?
Oh, not much. How are you?
I'm Peachy. How you doing?
Oh, doing pretty well. Let me mute the stream so I can't hear you twice.
No worries.
And we're good to go.
Sounds good. So,
So,
or you
go
go?
for it.
No, you go. You start it up. You know how it works.
I was just gonna, I mean, I generally know how it works. I was gonna ask how you wanted to start.
Uh, I was gonna say. So, just what? If you told me this in an email, I apologize but I don't remember if there was a specification. But is there a specific race that you want to check out today? And
Toss.
okay, and do you have like replays prepared, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I've got some replays prepared. And yeah, we can go through those. I can talk through kind of what where I think I've been struggling to give you some sense of that, or you can just watch the replays and be like, oh yeah, you're struggling there.
Okay.
Um, but kind of however you want to run things.
Yeah, that sounds good. Just go ahead and send me the replays over on Discord, and I'll jump into it, and I'll give you like a Discord screen share for you, so you can see my perspectives and
Sounds
stuff.
sounds good. Let me. I've been struggling, I think, the most with PvZ, so I can start there, or we can look at PvP or PvT first.
Either way,
Um,
whatever works. Whatever you what.
I will.
Or good, sorry.
Yeah, I'll toss a PvZ in there. Let's see.
So do you want to actually check out all three matchups then today?
If we can get through all of them, sure.
Because I would, because if you like, if that's what you want to do, I'll definitely speed up the process. But if you want to focus on one, I guarantee we can talk about one for an hour.
Sounds good. Maybe let's focus on PvZ then.
Okay.
Um, let's see. How about this one?
Nice. Nice. Loading it up. Shared up my screen. Okay. So you should be able to see my screen now, right? Cool beans. Cool beans. And then, as I say to everybody, just to make you feel right as rain, this is a safe space at any point in time during the lesson. If you want, if there's anything that pops in your mind, you want to like ask or talk about it, be like, oh, hold on, that doesn't make sense. 100%, you're more than welcome to interrupt me at any point in time. I encourage you to do it. I do not mind. I want you to definitely get the most out of this for yourself. So definitely interrupt me if I'm on a tangent and you want to be like, no, wait, that doesn't make sense to me. I need to understand something specific. Please explain, or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, and in general, I think the way I have learned StarCraft involved like studying the units and memorizing things before learning mechanics.
Sure.
So generally speaking, I will understand something that is game theory pretty much pretty quickly,
Uh huh.
and then like advice around like mechanics or like specific timings,
Oh
or like how like mechanically how to
yeah.
move through the game, and exercises to work on that. Those are the things that I think I struggle with the most.
Sure. Sounds
Um,
good.
but like, yeah, theoretically, I understand the game pretty well, and mechanically, I'm definitely behind the curve.
Okay. So we'll give you some game plan ideas about how you should be executing things. But yeah, so far, we'll start it up. Get down to your vision. Take off the name tags. We don't want any cheating here. We want to be able to think about this game from your perspective. Pylon is okay. Definitely I would say the pylon should be like there, over just like one to the right. And the reason why is because your wall is a bit fucking close to the pylon now. This is gonna make it harder to defend it. Roach all-ins if this guy decided to do that to you. And if you moved it one to the right, this pylon's still definitely close enough to that wall to where you could actually have your pylon. You can still wall properly. But you definitely want to get that pylon as far away from the wall as possible so you're not as susceptible to being all-in. Overall, not bad though. No one really does it that much. Alright, build looks overall fine still. And for anyone wondering as well, this is diamond level, guys, as well. I don't think we said that, but it is the diamond. Okay, so now you know he's going for hatch first. So I don't really mind that you turn around, but I would definitely say if the hatchery was like if you see this, and this does not look necessarily like hatch first to you, or if you're not really sure how to read it, I definitely would recommend going into the base a little bit deeper. But this definitely looks like hatch first because it should be finishing just before 2 minutes, like right around 2 minutes. So this looks okay. And I don't mind that you leave. That's totally fine. Because you know he's not able to do like a ling flood to you right off the bat or some shit like that. You're actually chilling here in the front. Did you steal his
Yeah, I
minerals as well, by the way?
no, that's my minerals, so I can use that to bring the probe back in mineral walk,
Okay.
if I need to.
Sure.
And yeah, so I check if it looks like pool first. I sit here and chill, and then I go back in and check to make sure he's droning at like 2 or 210.
Yep.
Between 2 and 210. And if it's pool first, then I go home.
Okay.
I check the gas and see if it's like a real all in and he's going for speed right away, and then I'd go home.
Okay. Sounds good. I mean, I don't mind that you don't scout right now with your probe in the deeper in the base. But yeah, what you just said about the one base, I agree with that. Alright. I want to see you take your second gas.
I take it right after the so I go cyber gas pylon.
Okay.
Second pylon.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
It's Nexus cyber.
So this core too is fucking super low. I like this is another reason why the pylon, if it was back a little bit, you can make your wall easier. Right? But like this wall is gonna have some fucked up shit too. It's gonna have a corner to corner block though.
On this particular map, I struggle with how to wall because I always I like to have at least one overlap and preferably two, so that you can go deep in the overlap. And on this map, I wall like this, and it's a corner to corner.
Yeah, it's
wall.
a bit rough, right? The perfect trick to do a perfect wall on every single map that exists is all you gotta do is make sure the pylon field doesn't touch the corners. That's all it's gotta be.
Doesn't touch. Okay.
Does not touch.
Gotcha.
Because the way the pylon field works is only the center of the building needs to be in the pylon field, not the outside. So
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, you could actually, I don't know why I can't see your pylon field, but you like if the let's just say the edge of the pylon field's right there, the edge of the gateway could actually be way the fuck outside of it, even though the edge is where the top of the line, like the top of the line represents the edge, and the bottom represents the protruding gateway. It could still be there because the center of the gateway is like there, and the top of the gateway would be like up there.
Gotcha.
Alright. Yeah, your gas is... I would say your gas, though, I actually would prefer you to make your gas with another probe, other than your core probe. So, like,
Okay.
when you build it here, you start coming back, you could be building your gas right now.
Okay.
And you
Gotcha.
so just take, like, grab a probe, I guess, like, to make it super easy. The second one of them gets minerals in his hand, just go build it and, like, return cargo, or whatever feels good to you. Grab this one coming back and be like, build that first, then go back in mine. Just because I noticed your gas seemed late, because you should never have 3 out of 3 and then a probe is not able to go in right away. You should always be able to 1 out of 3 this the second that's 3 out of 3 with your next probe.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. And then we'll see your build order follow up here. But this might be incorrect here with what you're... Okay, so yeah, I actually am not a fan of what you did. And let me tell you why, okay? Let me explain some... This is now going to be some executional shit here. If you saw a one base and you were worried about something that's really, really, really aggressive really fast, I'm totally cool with you getting warp gate right away as a countermeasure to be like, okay, I need to get warp gate faster because if my wall breaches, every gateway I can make after that is going to be able to be made with warp gate because I already have the research done for it. And if I don't breach here and I defend it, I'll just be able to make units faster because when warp gate's done, units get produced faster because of warp gate. Like if that's the case, that's fine. But if the guy sorry, if the guy is one base or is going for a normal build and he's not one basing you, and you're like, okay, well, I'm fully expecting macro out of this guy at least at the start of the game. I'm cool with you making a stalker. That's perfectly fine to get your wall covered and all that kind of stuff. But I would highly recommend if you're going to go Stargate follow up, you should actually delay warp gate and go Stargate first, and then get warp gate after, because it like massively increases offensive and defensive potential for you. Because having a faster Stargate out gives you the ability to have a void ray defensively to be like, all right, well, if you all in me, I'll destroy it, because all Zerg all ins would hit you if he goes for a natural first by like 4 minutes. So you would 100% have a void ray out by then, maybe even a second one almost out as well, which is going to be huge at defending like banelings trying to hit you, or ravagers or roaches or whatever. It also would make it really easy to take your third base defensively. And if you wanted to be aggressive, the alternative would be you could make a really fast Oracle, chrono boost it out, and get to his base super quick. And you could actually pick some drones off if you wanted to do that side of it instead. Both are great, but it just makes more sense to delay warp gate, to go fast Stargate, and then while Stargate's being researched or being constructed, then you research warp gate, because it doesn't really delay your, like, it does nothing. Like, your Stargate gets out and your void ray gets out, or whatever you make out of it gets out ASAP. It doesn't get delayed by getting warp gate after. But the fact that you delay warp gate a little bit after, if you're not even prioritizing gateway units anyways, it doesn't make sense to prioritize the warp gate. And you can see you're definitely prioritizing that Stargate, because you just want these for walls essentially.
Right.
So the last final thing I would say is getting warp gate first before tech would make sense if your tech was instead council or robo. Then it would make sense. But for Stargate specifically, it makes more sense to delay it.
It's 150 instead of 100, yeah.
Yeah, well that and also you're making a gateway centric army too. So you actually are making your gateway constantly pump something out. Like you're going to be making like adepts for an adept timing, or stalkers or whatever. You're going to be like making sentries to support your robo, and you want to be able to warp gate that shit fast because you're going to do an immortal timing. It's all timing shit with ground units, so you actually want warp gate faster for that. Another thing I don't like that you're doing here is don't ever make a zealot. As scary as it feels, you'd better off making a battery for the same cost of what a zealot is. Like, a battery is the same investment, but 1,000 times better than a zealot.
So the I guess a little bit. This build is speed is charge, void ray timing.
Okay, so you're okay.
So the zealot is like, I have some extra minerals. I'm banking up zealots in preparation for that, which should leave, assuming this replay is timed right, I should leave my base at like 435
So
with the crowd of zealots.
there's okay. I would say if you want to do a one void ray opener into charge lots, there is definitely a scarier, more deadly way you can do this than what this is. Because I'm not gonna lie, this is, if I was a Zerg player playing against you and I'm using overlords and I just have one sitting here and I have one kind of over here and I go pop in, pop out, I don't even need overlord speed and I can already tell what build you're doing. If I see you make just one void and you stop making voids and then you go kill my overlord or something and I'm watching you make zealots, I feel like I already know what you're doing. Like, this build is super scoutable, essentially. It's like super easily scouted. So what I would recommend in the future for you, just to make this a scarier build, would be your scouting probe should proxy. Like, when you leave his base, run down and like set up a fucking council down here, and then just make a Stargate and make a void ray, just like one void, deny overlords, and then you're chrono boosting out some fucking charge action over here, and he has no idea. And then as soon as you kill the overlords, explode your gateways. Like, don't just bank up zealots off of like 2 gates and have like 6 zealots or 5 zealots here. Let's just hypothetically say you did that, okay? And then like by the time the overlord dies, you have like 4 zealots or 5 zealots, and he's like, "What? Why do you have so many zealots?" And then he doesn't see you have gas either, and he's like, "Okay, no more overlords into a void ray," but this feels like a fucking zealot all in. Like, it kind of leads your opponent to what you're doing a bit too much.
Okay.
So I would definitely recommend going for mining enough gas for a void ray, just one void ray, and enough gas for charge and warp gate. So together, and a Stargate. So that's going to be 150 plus 150 for the void that you're going to make. So it's 300 gas for the Stargate in total. Then you're making 50 gas for the core, so it's 350 in total now. And you're making 200 gas in total for the council and the charge. So that's 500. You basically need to mine 550 gas. That's it. And then once you get 550 gas, rip off every probe and put it on the natural. So you stop probing this natural at 8. Or, sorry, at 10. At 10. Because 10 plus 6 is 16.
Gotcha. So that makes it pretty all in. Usually I hit with like, so I usually hit with 2 void rays and like 6 zealots in that group, and then I'll warp in 4 more and send 2 each to the main and the natural.
So is your plan to macro behind this then, normally?
And then I continue macroing behind this,
okay,
and then I take a third and get a DP shrine.
So this build, I would say, is not suited well for macro. Like you're actually gonna
Okay.
take a super late third with this, and the power of Stargate against Zerg is Zerg can't deny a third. That's why Protoss love Stargate so much, is because it's impossible for Zerg to deny the third unless the Protoss fucks up. So I would say
Gotcha.
your two builds, what I would highly recommend for you would be, this could be a build that looks like your third base greed build to the Zerg. They're like, oh, he's going Stargate. I don't know if it's the charge lot all in or if it's the fucking expansion version. This is awkward. But if you do the charge lot version, you fucking all in with it. Because charge lots being macroed behind it don't make sense. It literally doesn't make sense. You have to commit to that if you're going to do that. That'd be like a Zerg saying, I'm going to fucking 13-12 you early game, and then I'm just going to macro. Like, it's something that it's super highly invested into, and you need to commit to that. And then if you don't kill him, but you fucking cripple him really hard, then macro. Then that's fine. Then you're macroing against a Zerg who's like literally on one leg, just crawling around, being like trying to recover, right? Like he's fucking almost dead. Uh, but yeah, like if you don't really fully invest in your charge lots and you do a timing, you're like expecting it to fail, and that's never a good feeling for charge lots. So the two versions, just to throw it out there really quickly, is what I would say. And if you want, I could give you a guide to both of these. Like I could do like a quick example for you, just so you have like a reference. But what I would recommend personally is if you're gonna go for a charge lot version of this, go like 7 gates. Like so you would open up with 2 gates. That's totally fine to wall your base off. I'm down with that. That's cool. And then you only make a stalker, and you don't even use your gateways anymore. Like you just you set up your wall, you stop, and you're done. And if you really wanted to, you could even put your Stargate in your wall. That would also be fine. But actually, probably don't do that because then he runs a Zergling here and he'll see if you're building units or not. So probably don't do that. Probably just do 2 gateways. It's totally fine. And then every time a Zerg comes by, you could actually pretend like you're making units by starting Zealots. And then as soon as he leaves, you can cancel Zealot if you have like a little bit of extra money for just a second while you're waiting on a probe or something. You could like literally meta the fuck out of him like that, making him think you're constantly building units for the opener of the game or something like that. And then it makes it seem less charge lotty and more like you're going Adepts or you're going Stalkers or something. And then behind this, you make 1 Void, you make 1 Proxied Council. You literally focus 100% on denying what's around your main base first, and then fly immediately to your natural, and then fly across the map with the Void. You just hunt Overlords. And as soon as you leave your base, you literally make an extra like 4 gates. So you go up to a total of 6 gates. So you can make like the 4 gates like as far back in your base as you can, or something. Like make another pound here, make 4 more gateways next to it, and then with your proxy probe, as soon as you move your Void Ray up, go closer to his base and build a new pylon and build 1 more gateway next to it, and then start warping in Zealots on your proxy gate for the 7th gate. So the 7th gate's going to be where you kind of all in him from, and then you just literally flood Zealots until he dies. Ideally, that's the ideal situation. And then if you can't break him, then you macro out of it. But ideally, this is going to break his ass. That would be like the robo-less charge lot timing when someone has a Stargate opener, like with for that kind of a build. If you're going to go for an actual macro version, I would recommend you go 1 Stargate, and you take your 3rd base with your very first Stargate, with your very first Void Ray. You literally just fly this fucking right to your 3rd base, take your 3rd, and you escort your 3rd base probe with that Void and like 2 Adepts. So you make your first Stalker, so you can't be broken by Baneling rushes. So it makes it really hard for the Zerg to break you with Banelings. And then you literally just make like 5 Adepts, 4 or 5 Adepts out of the gateways over time, which you're never going to really use them that much. What they do, like you're not going to like over-invest into them is what I mean. What you're going to do is you're going to make like 4 or 5 of them, and they just cover the 3rd, so that you can actually take a 3rd against a bunch of fucking Speedlings. Because if you don't do this and Speedlings show up, he'll deny your 3rd. And you'll be like, ah, shit, okay, he's got like 25 Speedlings and he just killed my 3rd base because 1 Void Ray can't kill it fast enough. But if you have Adepts kind of like hugging the sides of the Nexus, it's really easy to expand. And then behind that, as soon as it's set up and you have a battery at it, and then you have, your Void Ray is done, your 5 Adepts are there or whatever, as soon as that happens, you can continuously move out with your Voids, and you can also then send these Adepts aggressively. And whatever you're going to make behind that, I don't know what your plan is behind that. You can let me know in a second here. But whatever you're going to do behind that, then you start making that unit. Like, I don't know if you're going to be Charge the Arc on a Mortal guy, or if you're going to literally go Sky Toss. Either way would be fine. If you're the Sky Toss kind of guy, you'd probably make a cannon. If you're the Charge the Arc on a Mortal guy, you'd probably just make more gates here and start making like Immortals and Sentries or something for a second, and then go in, or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I generally try to avoid Protoss, air toss just because I think it's boring. But if I
Okay,
see lurkers, then I'll start to transition
sure.
into air toss because there's basically no answer to tier 3
So
lurkers except for air
are you
toss.
a charge like immortal Archon kind of guy then?
Generally, yeah.
Okay, so what you'd want to do then is you'd have like 5 adepts. You'd have you'd with this build then probably stop making voids at literally like 4 voids. Make up to 4 and fucking stop. So the reason why is because if you make one and you only make one, the Protoss is gonna be like, huh, not really using that Stargate, huh? And it really makes it obvious that you're fucking not going Stargate. But if you make up to like 4, it's a number that's threatening. It can actually kill a main base if he doesn't have multiple queens in the area. Like you can literally just overcharge it down and kill it. So it actually makes the Zerg have to react to it. And if the Zerg has to react to it, the Zerg doesn't know how invested you're going to be into it because he's actually feeling threatened to react to it. So if you're like, cool, I make like 4 voids, and then I go fly around and I kill overlords and I just kill drones or back up or kill whatever you can. Just try not to lose your voids. And then behind it, you're also multi-pronging maybe to like the third base with adepts, being really fucking annoying with those adepts that were initially protecting the third. And behind that, you're just making zealots, immortals, and archons. And then you can set up like literally your fourth base. As soon as you have your third base saturated, take a fourth, go up to like that fourth could be like your final probing era that you're gonna do to go up to like 80 probes, and then just make literally fucking maxed out charge the Archon Immortal. And you can make up to like, we're talking seriously like 2 robos and like 14 or like 16 gates, because you can fucking slam archons and zealots like crazy when you're just bouncing heavy minerals, heavy gas, heavy minerals, heavy gas. It's really easy to afford more gates for doing that. So we'll continue to go through the replay, but what I just said, how's that feel? Does that sound good or no?
Yeah, that sounds good. After like the 5:36 minute mark in this build, if I'm not like basically just crushing, it's like just waiting for the guy to leave.
Uh-huh.
I don't have a really strong plan after that point,
Sure.
and so that everything you just said it was really helpful.
Yeah, I know the reason why I think you feel that way is because charge lots is too much of an investment to not fully commit to, and it's like you're spending, you know, someone says like, oh, I don't, it's gonna be a terrible analogy, but it'd be like someone saying, this item that you want to purchase is $50, and you're like, I'll give you 200. Like it's like you're overspending early game for something that you're not really getting the most out of. Like you're just, like I said, it's a bad analogy. I knew it was gonna be bad when I said it, but I hope that makes sense though. Like you're wasting too much resources in the early game, and you're not getting the result you want because you need to commit more to that kind of shit if you're gonna really attack someone with charge lots.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, bad analogies are, they're gift horses. Don't punch them in the mouth,
Yeah.
or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I get you, dude. I get your flow. I understand. Nice. I like your overlord killing. That was good. Okay, then you get to his base and you're attacking him. So
So this one went straight Hydra.
yeah,
Looks like off that one.
and just to throw it out there, this is the only reason why I want you to. I would prefer you to do the different build that I was recommending, is because there's one simple way that a Zerg could crush this, and I think almost every Zerg will play this way against Protoss, which is if they catch wind that you're making zealots early, and they also see you're not going for a third base. It's like there is a level of Zerg that has knowledge about how abusive third bases are. Okay, and once a certain time frame goes by in the game, Zerg knows you're all in. If you're not taking a third, and that time frame of the game is beyond 5 minutes. So if a Zerg was paying attention to this, and then also Zerg should always be making a Roach Warren against Protoss. If this guy doesn't have a Roach Warren, he's fucking nuts. This guy's nuts. Like this is the riskiest Zerg ever. If you would have just straight up all in this guy with pre-council, like just straight gateway mass, you would have killed him, like 100%. This guy is fucking crazy. He's like, this is crazy Zerg style right here. This is YOLO. So every Zerg, pretty much, you'll eventually get to a point where every Zerg makes a Roach Warren. It's mandatory. You have no choice because there's always the possibility that Protoss just flips on the switch and goes for an all-in and kills you if you don't have it. So if the Zerg had a third base and a Roach Warren, and he saw you weren't taking a third by 5 minutes, he just starts cranking roaches, and then he just needs he needs queens to deal with these instead of Hydra, and you would not be able to get much done here. Which is why this needs to be definitely more assertive to like if he does. So if the Zerg is gonna actually make roaches, you run his ass over because he like was too greedy and he waited too long. If you're gonna go for this, like obviously it's not perfect. It's not always gonna win you the game. If a Zerg is really smart, they can figure it out. If they figure it out early enough as to what you're doing, and they prepare long enough, they'll be okay. But the point I'm trying to make is this is always destined to fail with how late it is. And you know,
this one is hitting super late, and you're normally like I definitely screwed up a couple of things because normally the 6 zealots arrive at 5:30.
okay.
So this is super late.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure why. I think I might have just left my base late.
It's all good.
Finished on time.
The one thing that's scary about it too, in my opinion, is you have no reinforcement. Like this is just it. Your reinforcements are coming from your base, and on top of that, there's no prism because you can't afford it. So like there's no proxy prism, proxy pylon, anything like that. So in a situation, here's a cool thing too. This is something that logically makes a lot of sense, and you'll be like, oh fuck yeah, okay. I need to pay attention to this detail. It's very important for my all-in to be more successful. Think about what direction do you play against on Zerg, and, like as to what direction would you say Zergs take their third base more often? Like it's not always going to be exact. You can't always be 100% accurate on this, but the best way you can fuck over a Zerg player in this kind of a situation is literally find out what direction on most maps a Zerg takes their third and proxy outside their fourth next to their third. So if you're like, yeah, Zergs on this map love fucking taking that third right there, I'm going to proxy my gateway right there. Because by the time I hit him, his creep will not be there, and I'll be rushing right into the fucking base. Like, if it's vice versa, if this was the third, you proxy right outside the third. It's like the perfect spot to do it. Because you're literally, it's not much time is going to go by to when you build this to when you're going to use this. So it's not like Zerg is going to have like 4 minutes or something, obviously. It'd be like the second you build the pylon, you build the gateway, you're already warping in zealots before the gateway's even fully done yet. And then it's like your second wave and your third wave and your fourth wave, whatever, are all warping, like warp gate zealots.
Right there, yeah.
But your first wave is going to be warping in like as your gateway is still under construction. So it really puts the Zerg under a lot of pressure, essentially, to do this. And actually, the reason why is because it gives you reinforcements, realistically. This it looks threatening for the first attack, but if it gets denied, it just does nothing, right? Because you can't really reinforce it.
Right, because the reinforcements are coming from 30 seconds away.
Exactly. All right. We got some action here. Let me just put myself on busy.
I wasn't sure if that was BM in the game or
no, that was to me. That was 100%. So I just played that guy, and he cannon rushed me, and then he did multiple like annoying things throughout the game, and he was literally going mass sky toss with mass voids, and I thought it was funny to build hatcheries in his base, and he got super salty about it.
Gotcha. That on the Zerg side, that creep tumor is blocking their fourth, which I think was the mistake. I think that may have won me this game.
Sure. I mean, he could have killed it too, right? But yeah, I mean that's for sure. When Zerg does that, it's sloppy and it's annoying to the Zerg, and like, oh my fucking god, I can't build it now. This is super, like the drone having to kill it now takes time. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, I saw the queen laying that down, and I was like, I'm not killing that one.
Yeah, nice.
I'm gonna leave that there.
Yeah. Yeah, so your army right now, at this point in the game, this is why it's becoming a problem for you, is because you're still on Void Ray Zealot at 9 minutes. And there's so many things that would kill you right now. Roach Hydra would kill you, Lurkers would kill you, Banelings would kill you. Like for instance, like Hydra Baneling, Zergling would destroy you. Mutas would kill you. Like almost, like obviously, Mutas aren't really an option though because he has Hydrogen. But Ling Bane Hydra is an option, Roach Hydra is an option, Lurker is an option. All these things are options, and all of them would kill you at this point in the game since you have no Immortal or Archon. So I'm super scared for you. And now you're going into Carrier.
Yep. Yeah, that was a reaction to seeing the Hydras first because I was assuming that he was going straight to Lurker.
Okay.
Which is another piece that I'm seeing here is like I really need to be scouting more.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. One thing you can do as well, a cool build you can do, this is something that's not as common, and I think a lot of Zergs will struggle versus this. It's something that, like, when I play ladder personally, only a couple Protosses play this way, but it's really obnoxious. You could actually go, if you wanted to change it up and not go charge the Archon Immortal every game, you could actually also go for a Stargate, like basically the macro version I said about the 5 Adepts, and then you move out with the 5 Adepts, and you move out with the 4 Voids or whatever. But in that scenario, you could keep making Voids. You can make a Robo behind your 3rd base. You could go into really, really fast Colossus. And you could go Colossus Void Ray into Carrier. And then you could also, once you start up the Fleet Beacon to go into Carrier, you could start up a Forge, and you could start up a bunch of fucking gates with charge. And you turn that build into, like, for a little while, charge lots with Colossus, Carrier, Void Ray. And you only want to make, like, probably, like, 4 Colossus, because you're not going mass Colossus, you're just making some in case he all-ins you with mass Hydras. And then you turn that into just straight up Sky Toss, where you rotate into Temple Archives, and you can become like the mass carrier with Archon and Storm kind of guy. It's a really...
Do you do attack upgrades with that Forge then, instead of...
you could do either one. You could literally do shield or weapon. Doesn't really matter. The Colossus are like pretty self-sufficient at killing Hydras whether or not they have weapons, because they do bonus to light, so they fucking wreck Hydras either way. And if you get shield upgrades... Or go ahead, sorry.
So you'd still want either armor or shields. I guess shields because they're going to help the air toss too.
I would say never make armor. Even if you're doing the build with mass Zealots and Archons and Immortals, don't even get armor then. You definitely do not want to get armor there. You want to always get weapons if you're actually focused on ground army. It is optional to get ground weapons or shield upgrades if you're going to do an air army. And the only reason why shield upgrades is actually like it's realistic, like a option. You might not be thinking about it the right way. It's not because, oh, it makes your ground army and your air army stronger. Even though it does, it's not actually why. It's because air armies are slower and your base is more susceptible to run-bys, so it makes cannon battery stronger. Exactly. Cannon battery, yeah. So shields is still an option, and if you want to go for weapons, it's an option too, because it makes your charge lot run-bys stronger too. So that's also fine. You just need to make sure you're doing charge lot run-bys if you go for weapon upgrades.
Gotcha, that's a habit shift, because I've been with, just because of the attack speed difference between Toss and Zerg, I've been prioritizing the defensive upgrades.
Yep.
Instead of the attack upgrade.
Yeah.
Which.
Yeah, definitely. I would say in this particular situation, yeah, definitely. If you did have a forge going in your base,
I don't yet.
yeah. If you did have one going, it would be definitely for either shield or weapon for sure. Like always, like armor is really only useful, I would say, against Terran early game, and against Protoss. Protoss kind of has a similar mindset against Zerg. Like you go for literally weapon upgrades. The only way it would ever make sense is if you got multi-forge, and if you went multi-forge, it would definitely mean you're doing a 100% ground-based build. You're not going air at all. Like you're not no Stargates. It's too expensive to get double forge and also go Stargate.
Gotcha.
Against Zerg and Protoss, that is. You could still do that actually against Terran, because you could actually do a Phoenix build with double forge, and that would actually make sense against Terran, because that would be like Phoenix Colossus. So you actually are going Colossus this game. Your Colossus are super late though, because you have only one Colossus at 10.5 minutes. So with the way I was recommending it, you would be starting your Robo at like 4:30, or like 4:20, 4:30, somewhere around there, because you're gonna start your third base by like 4 minutes, and then as soon as you can afford it after your third, you'd start a Robo. So you would right now you'd have already at least 3, if not 4 Colossus. If you're like perfect at macroing, it'd be 4. If you're missing a little bit here and there, and you're like, oh, whoops, 15 seconds went by and I forgot to make a Colossus, you'd probably have 3. And 3 Colossus against this, and you also would have range, right? You'd have that too, so you'd no threat on your Colossus at all. There would, like, Hydras would be getting melted from where it is right now, and you would be crushing this attack, no problem.
Right. Instead of having just flipped from being like 30 supply ahead to being now even supply.
Yep. And the big reason why that went so bad for you is because your army is literally like 75% zealot with no backup, because you're being backed up. Like your Colossus just came out now, so it's late, but you're being backed up realistically by 1 carrier and like 4 voids, and they're slow. Like they're slower. Like voids are at least faster than a carrier, but you're being backed up by units that don't even engage at the same time as your zealots are like sacrificing themselves to engage on the fight. So you're kind of fighting 2 different fights. Your army's like 50-50, or that's more like it's really 75-25, like I just said. But it's like a chunk of your army goes in first, most of it gets in the battle, and it does the fight however it's going to go, and then the other 25% of your army suddenly engages 8 seconds later, and the fight's already been decided by the first 75% of your army, which has just been sacrificing itself.
Which is right, which is really supposed to be a meat shield for the things that actually do damage
Exactly.
anyway.
That's why it pairs so well
So if
with
there's
like
nothing doing
Archons and
damage.
Immortals. When you have like a lot of zealots, because then it actually you have Archons and Immortals just pounding the fucking Zerg behind your zealots as they go in.
Yep.
But yeah, your army just feels it's too much like a standalone with zealots right now, and it comes from your opener. And now the moment I'm getting scared for you in this game is that your army is way too anti-ground centric, way too late in the game. So having an army that looks like this, I would say the zealots actually serve almost no purpose here. Like if you had more voids and you had more colossus. And the reason why is because if let's just pretend this is not 11 minutes. Let's pretend this is like 8 minutes or like 8.5 minutes. Like we're much earlier in the game, and you actually had an army that is like only a couple of gateway units with 3 colossus and 6 voids, and like you're starting to make carriers. What you could do is you could have those few colossus you have paired with the few voideries that you have. You could poke out, and like with an observer, you could poke the edges of creep, and then if Zerg runs at you off creep, you could. The only thing that's scary that will chase you down and kill you is a Zergling, but Colossus will melt Zerglings. So all you gotta do is stutter step, back up, stutter step, back up, stutter step, back up. Everything else Zerg has off creep is not gonna run your ass down and kill you super hard. And even if like let's say Zerg flanks you, just recall. And just try to like limit the Zerg's creep a little bit, shove it back, and then you actually could take control of the map a little bit more that way. And it's cool. A cool thing you could do if you actually did have some gateways with zealots. These zealots would be so much better off, like in a prism up here, like warping in into his base while you lure his army to the south side. These zealots are going to accomplish nothing in this fight. They shouldn't. Like I 100% feel like your zealots are like if we watch this and you engage this, I feel like your zealots are all going to die in the time that your colossus get like 1 attack off. Like against the actual
I think
army
I
of
just
Zerg.
killed the queen and back up.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I think I was just poking creep here, so I'm waiting
That's
for
good.
my
Yeah,
storm
the fact that
cloud
you're already
to
doing
back
that
up.
is really good. Poking creep is really nice. You should definitely get the fuck out of here right now. But yeah, I'm glad
Yeah,
you
I
poked
saw
creep
that and I
though.
was like, I yeah. And usually, a lot of times, what happens is I'll get like just as a diamond, I'll get distracted by macro for like 5 seconds,
Sure.
and I won't back my army up,
Yeah,
and I
like
will lose
this.
the entire thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But and what I think need to start making a habit of doing is just bringing it home,
Yep.
starting at home, and then if I get back to it in time, I can turn it around and stay in the area. And if I don't, then at least it's not like just sitting there chilling, waiting to be flanked.
No, for sure. And one thing you could do as well is you could like if you know you're not going to watch your army, you should definitely send it back home. But one thing you could do as well is you could go like this: army attack over here, shift attack up here. Because what you could do then is if you take a little bit longer to macro than you thought, and you like catch your army as it's like right here instead, you're ready to start killing the other side of creep. Just work like
Sure, that's good, yeah.
literally like imagine Zerg is like stuffing a sleeping bag into like the cover for the sleeping bag or something like or like a pillow into a pillowcase. Like you're just stuffing both sides in until it fully fits, right? Like you're just stuffing Zerg back into his fucking corner. Because if you don't control the creep and you control only one side, the other side will just spill out over all the entire other side of the map. So you gotta take take it in like patiently, go left, right, like just semicircle his creep and just shove it back little by little. And if you do this multiple times, it just keeps the Zerg blind as fuck, and it makes your transitions like Skytoss ridiculously powerful because Zerg is walking around the map blind then, and this army will always win if the Zerg is off creep and blind, and you land like one good storm with it. Yeah, you're posturing definitely way too long in this spot for sure. You should definitely be rotating around to kill more creep. Like you're trying to win the game right now is what you're doing. So like this attack
Yeah.
tells you that you're trying to win the game right now. Like this is it. You're going for it. But it doesn't make sense to try and win
Right.
the game right now because you're making a transition.
Right, which isn't actually trying to win the game. It's like, oh crap, my army's still there and his army's right here now,
Yeah,
so I need to do something
exactly.
useful.
Exactly. It's like it's two different mindsets. Like you're trying to end the game,
Right.
you're trying to extend the game. You're trying to go for the death ball, you're trying to attack him with what you have. Like it's just two conflicting thought processes.
Right. Yeah, which is exactly what that looks like, and the reality is like, oops, my army should not be there. Storm is not done yet. What am I doing over
Yeah,
here?
even if it was not, I would be like fucking so scared for you right now. Because if this guy actually flanked you with like some Banes or something, and he got a good connection, like he could actually kill your army. Like if the Zerg was macroing flawlessly here, he could definitely have more than he does too. Okay, you're killing creep again. This is a bit bold though, and I like notice it one more time how the Zealots haven't really done much yet. Like you're playing a bit non-committal. I'm happy about that at least. Like you're shoving Zerg, but you're not fully committing to Zerg like full on. You're always willing to back up. You're not shoving into his base already. So I'm a little bit more happy about that. But I would definitely love it if your Zealots were elsewhere, because they're not really like your army is so. It's so strong, and Zealots aren't really going to make the difference here. Like, if this guy runs through Storm, Colossus, Storm, his army's going to die anyways. You just got to back up and AoE him down. And if your Zealots were somewhere else, you could literally be, like, an Observer plus Zealots could be killing creep over here at the same time. Or you could just be killing that base and having Zealots go into the main. Or a Prism could be taking Zealots, like, actually into the main and get not only scouting it, but killing whatever tech you see in his main. Like, the Zealots just have so much more of a potential here than they are achieving right now. Like, these are kind of useless, I would say, at the moment. Because they're not going to do anything in your fight. They're just going to die.
So one thing I struggle with is army control with more than, like, 3 to 4 control groups total.
Yeah.
And if there's any, like, is there something like a drill, I guess, almost to practice, like, literally, and I'll see pros do it where they're like rotating through control groups, but I'm not exactly sure what drill they're doing when they've got that idle time. Just to work on going through control groups and using them appropriately.
Do you have priorities? Like, for instance, do you have like a control group that's designated to something all the time? Like it's always like if you, or go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, the letter I is main army, O is frontline, depending on the composition, either frontline or backline.
So wait, you use
K
I and O to select your armies?
I O K L, yeah, I O K and L.
What do your fingers rest on the keyboard when you play?
J I O and P.
That's like
and
the
/.
Okay, that's I don't remember what that's called, but that's like the hotkey method or something where you're using the middle of the keyboard. So that
it's most of the right hand side, and then because then my thumb is on / most of the time, and then I can use Alt Shift, Control, and Control Shift with my thumb in different
blowing
positions.
my mind right now with this.
So I can do all of the, like, I have access to all the different hotkey combinations.
Okay.
It's a fun keyboard layout. We can talk for an hour about how I came up with it. But,
no, for sure, yeah. As long as you have access to like the shift, I guess you could rebind enter to like what caps lock, or I mean I don't really use caps lock, I guess, but you have access to like shift, control, alt, like all these things that are useful because it literally, like if for instance if you could say on the left side of the keyboard, if you have like 20 keybinds between or like 1 2 3 4 5, like 1 down to Z, 5 down to B, and then you hit like that's 5 keys, 4 rows of it, so it's 20 keys. But then if you take alt, control, and shift versions of that, now you have that times 4. But then you can take shift control and shift alt together, and control alt together, and you can like make combinations again. You can literally have like 200 binds out of those 4 rows of 5 keys each. Like as long as you can do something like that as well on the right side, I'm cool with it. And that's the only reason why I think the left side is, like, I'm not trying to like say the right side's inferior or anything, but you'd have to use your index finger and your thumb together to set up combinations like this. Do you have to do something like this? No. We're getting a bit extreme here, but yeah, on the left side I use pinky thumb, so that it's whatever. But as long as you can have like a decent amount of hotkeys, I'm cool with your, like, this has nothing to do with control groups, by the way. I'm just in general saying, I think your setup is fine for StarCraft on the right side, because you still should have enough shit going on. But the big thing you should do for control groups is just don't. Okay, like it's more about like understanding how to set something up than it is to do it in the moment. So just know, like, when a pro player plays, okay, so we're gonna shift topics now and not talk about the keyboard anymore. We're not talking about your layout. It's fine. We're talking about game sense, like game understanding. When you attack somebody, you should have in your mind the way you're going to attack them before you attack them, because you know what you have and how to maximize what you're doing. It's not about on the fly going, Zealots go there, and it, like Alt 6 or Alt 7, and you know, like trying to like do things and wrap it up and do all this crazy shit at once, and like turn your APM from 100 to like 400 in a matter of 2 seconds because you're trying to like deal with shit all at once. Like it's not like that. It's literally just going, okay, well, what is my army going to accomplish right now? What am I up against? I'm up against a player who's going mass hydras, right? And it is understanding what you're doing with your gameplay. So if you go, okay, well, I'm up against mass hydras, and my composition is currently AoE centric with melee and range. And what is his army composition? It's 100% ranged. Okay. So all that means, and then so that now we're talking about ranges, right? Max, it's just range units, all range, versus a hybrid of air, ground, range, and melee. You have everything, literally, which is fine. It's just that now think about something else. Movement speed. The movement speed of a zealot, the melee unit, is 1,000%. Like it's okay, it's an exaggeration right there, pretty hard, but it's really fast compared to the rest of your army. It's not 1,000% faster, but you get the point. It's just way faster. It's like a fucking Ferrari versus like a Honda Civic or something. It's like fucking not even close. So your zealot in the engagement.
Go to the Archons.
Yeah.
Carriers.
It's just gonna fucking run in and die, essentially.
High Templar.
Because the Roach and the Hydra are faster than everything in your army except for the Zealot. And the Zealot is faster than everything in your army as well. Everything else. So when you engage, all your Zealots are going to do is they're going to run in, Hydras are going to back up, and they're going to back up either way. Not because of the Zealots, because you have AoE. They're going to back up from the Colossus and the Storm. Like, they're going to not just sit there and eat Storm, or the game just ends anyways. And if the Zealots weren't there, the game would end anyways. It would just be over. So if your Zealots were not in the army, you get the same outcome either way. If the Hydra Roach doesn't back up, you AoE him. If he does back up, you move forward again and take ground and try to AoE him when you reconnect again. And then, but the alternative is when he backs up, he doesn't get to stutter step back up and kill all your Zealots. And if your Zealots are somewhere else where this doesn't exist, you get the same result with this army, and your Zealots get to accomplish something else much more now, which is killing a bunch of drones, killing a base, blah blah blah, something like that. Now, if you were fighting against mass fucking like Zerglings or something like that, something that's more shoving in your face, and you needed to protect your ground casters here, otherwise you were afraid of dying. Like if you were fighting Lingbane Muta, I'd be like, okay, this makes more sense to keep the Zealots here right now, because what are you fighting against now? You're fighting against melee units, multiple variations of them, and they're all faster than what you have. Like his air units are faster than your entire army, his ground units are faster than your entire army, and that fight right now for you is really heavily centered on, are your Colossus and your Zealots able to protect the Templar so that your Templar can AoE the Mutas, because if you can't AoE the Mutas kill everything here. Something like that would make more sense if you wanted to keep the Zealots here, because you need to protect your army. But you don't need to protect these guys here because he's pure range. Like, these are the last things that are going to die. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so like in this particular situation, you'd be so much better off counterattacking. Is my just the point again? The point I'm trying to make here. It's such a huge opportunity that this guy would just die to. And you can almost always counterattack as well. Like if you're gonna have, just in general, the only time again it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier. The only time going a lot of Zealots ever makes sense is if you're gonna all in the guy. If you're literally going gas pedal to the floor, we're all in as fuck right now. Let's hit him hard. That's when a lot of Zealots would make sense. But a lot of Zealots later on, the only time it ever makes sense as the game progresses to the point where you guys are both getting closer to max is if you're counterattacking. Having a lot of Zealots around this point in the game is terrible for your army. And I know you don't have your army literally only has like 12 Zealots, or 10 Zealots even. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that bad, but they will accomplish nothing here. They'll run in and they'll die if you engage. And see how they're not even engaging right now, which is great. I love it. And you're storming first. And then he backs up. And now as he backs up, you back up as well. Like those Zealots, I would genuinely say, did almost literally nothing in that fight. They ran in, they got hit a bunch, and the Zerg backed up anyways, and it wasn't because of the Zealots, it was because of the storm.
Yep. And the Zealots hung out in the storms for a little bit.
Yeah. And there would be so much more pressure. Like, for instance, if this guy went back to defend a base where Zealots were, that base is dead. If he went to the main, that base is dead. And then if that base dies, this guy's fucked. Because at this point, his bases are mining out the other bases because it's so late now.
Yeah, if I remember this game correctly, I was seeing that fourth base go up. I was like, all right, I just need to not just lose my entire army by accident. And I
Sure.
think right here is where I was like, where I did, exactly what I was talking about a few minutes ago, where I basically left my army for a while,
Yeah.
and I think very nearly lost it.
Yeah, yeah. So to go back, sorry, I kind of like skipped over the last point a little bit. To go back one more time and just recommend something, I would say you should have another control group that you just create in your mind where you go, okay, well, this number represents counterattacks. Just make a control group that literally is counterattacks. So it could be,
Okay.
I don't know if something that's free for you. Like, let's say it's 8. 8 is counters because your hand's on J anyways or something. 8's right above that. 8's counterattacks. Or I don't know. Again, whatever makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Just make a new number that is literally counterattacks, and that's always what it is. It never does anything else. So you go, okay, I'm about to counterattack. Let's click some zealots, Alt 8 or whatever you want to do, or Shift 8 or what. Like make some zealots out of a prism and make them 8. Whatever makes you happy. Lots of ways you can do it. Just 8 is your counter group, and that's always what it's going to do. And you always do it in moments like this. And a perfect moment like this, there's multiple reasons why it would make sense. It's not only because compositionally it makes sense, even though it really does, which is what we just explained about the range shit. But another reason why it makes sense is because this is even bigger. It's because you're transitioning. You don't even want zealots. Like zealots are literally fodder right now, and they're so much more utilized in that way if you put them scattered around the map rather than in a clump with your army, because it makes it really easy for him to defend this if they're clumped up here. But if they're...
So also I should be stopping building them too. Like I'm replacing them.
I would say it's okay that you build them, but you should not max on them. So you should trade every time you build them, you trade them away. But you can build them again, trade them away, because you mine minerals at a way faster pace than you mine gas. And as long as you're always spending all of your gas to increase that supply, that's perfectly fine, because you don't have enough Stargates to just instantly max out from 0 supply to 200. You have to build it up over time. So that's totally fine to like use the excess to make zealots with, to like launch some type of attack with. And then once you get to a point where you're like, well, Stargates are they're vacant, I can use them again, and I have enough gas to make another round, but I need to get rid of some zealots. Get rid of some zealots and then make Stargate units. Don't make zealots again. That's when you would want to not make them again.
That makes sense.
And as long as you have a good economy, you can always afford it. And if you're doing it well, you're limiting his economy, so it's 100% worth it. Yeah, like look at your zealots, for instance. Like look at what they're accomplishing in this fight. They're just killing fucking eggs and broodlings. And the ones that didn't do that are just running in and dying in 2 seconds because it's like 3 or 4 of them. These guys are like, fuck that egg up, fuck that larva up. And they're the ones that run in, and they didn't even really help the fight that much. They were kind of fucking useless in that fight. Like if we had like a damage meter here, the zealots did probably like 3% of the damage of your entire army in that fight. And the zealots also were a total value of 34 supply in your army here, which is a large chunk. That's like 34 supply is like a fourth or almost a third of your army.
Right.
Because you have 124 and 34 is 100 and what? 2? So that's definitely a lot.
92.
So I mean that's that.
One.
What up?
Yeah, and I was remembering this game too. I think what I was going in is like kill the hatch and leave, and looked away. If you look at my camera, I don't think I'm looking at my army at the beginning of that engage because my Templar are out in front too, like basically just sitting, hanging out with the right in front of the Hydras.
And that's super scary too, right? So this is a moment where you're pushing with no knowledge of where he is too, and that's why zealots are also really good, because you can actually pull him to a location and then push him somewhere else. So you can actually use your zealots as like think about like this guy is like a zombie, and you want to get to a location where a zombie is currently standing, and you go, all right, I'll pick up this fucking rock and I'll throw it over there at that wall, and the zombie will hear that and walk over there. It's literally that kind of logic. You just attack him with some, you poke him with some zealots, he comes down to defend, it opens this up, you kill that for free. It's guaranteed damage. And if you go, I'm willing to sacrifice 8 zealots which is more expensive than this hatchery is. Even though it's a bad trade financially to go, oh well, 300 is worth less than 800, so I'm taking a bad trade here by 500 in the negative. It's a positive if you go, oh well, he's not mining and I am, so I'm actually just crushing him in economy, and it doesn't matter that I took a bad trade there because he can't keep up with me now and he just dies. So you can actually
Yeah, at this
pull
point
him
it's
around.
like at this point it's 5 bases, and I'm walking up to take my 6th. There's already a probe, I think at that 6th,
Yeah, no, for
in the
sure.
north.
No,
On
it's
the way.
yeah, that's super. That's it's good as fuck. Like,
So,
you're definitely out macroing him, and you could definitely attack this guy more like methodically. Like you could definitely attack him
tactically,
in
yeah.
a more organized way. And yeah, like your AOE fucking won that, just destroyed that fight. Your Colossus and your Storm obliterated that army. I would say between all the damage of your entire army there, your Storm and Colossus together, like your Storm definitely did the most. Your Storm did probably like 60% of the entire damage of that fight, and your Colossus did probably like 25. And then the remainder was like mostly Carrier Void Rate and then like that 3% on Zealots. Like it was so, Zealots were just did nothing there, and they were one of the biggest investments. But they could have done so much. You could have killed a base too at the same time. So even if you lose this fight, this base dies at the same time. And like just hypothetically say your storms were terrible or something, and you got ran over, and you're like, oh fuck, I lost a good chunk of my army. Or we call the remainder of it out and try to save as little, whatever I can. Yet Zerg just lost the base. So now Zerg, even though I lost the fight, I'm mining way more because now he's down another base. He's down to 2 bases now instead of his original earlier, and he lost a bunch of drones or what. It just gives you a lot more control of the game.
Yep.
So like right now these zealots, let's just say the game wasn't over, 100% these zealots should be going like this: left, and then up to attack, and then your main army could like once again push creep or whatever, or you could like do other shit. But if this was like your remax here, if you were like, oh I need a remax for power, definitely don't make those. Definitely make those.
Yep. Yeah, and that zealots that's like 16 zealots or 12 zealots, something like that. That's definitely could have all 4 of those Stargates
No,
working.
100%. Yeah, that's 26 supply right here. So right here, this is 6, 12, 18, 24 supply. Exactly the same.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Makes sense.
how everything we just talked about? How's that feeling?
It all feels it's super helpful. I might have to rewatch the VOD once or twice to make sure I absorb all of it. I was trying to take notes, but
Nice. Well,
yeah, definitely helpful.
if you have time, I know we went for pretty much an hour here, but if you have time, would you like to do one of the builds that we talked about earlier, where I could show you an example?
Sure. Yeah, I have time.
Which one? We'll just do one of them. Which one would you prefer? Would you prefer the zealot one, or would you prefer the like the macro one?
The macro one is more interesting to me. I
Okay.
tend to like the playing the game for longer than 5 minutes if I can.
Sure. Okay, so just remember with the all-in one, I explained earlier, but just remember the key part of that is mine, like set up your first base as normal, okay? Where you get like 22 probes on the first base, and you set up your first gas, and you set up your second gas, and it's all good. But really keep in mind the big thing about that build is you don't ever stop making probes except for at the 20 mark until you're at 32. So you stop making probes at 20, so you make your core and shit like that, but in your nexus. But then once you make those buildings, you never stop probing again. You keep making them until you're at 32, and then you just crank it out as fast as you can. And as soon as you get to 32, you're done. Stop making probes, and you just save the extra minerals instead of probe costs now to make more pylons, more gateways, and you just fucking all in. And you don't chrono boost either. You do not chrono boost probes anymore after your first 2 chronos. I would say you're totally fine to chrono your natural 1 time. When your natural finishes, chrono boost it once and call it a day. And you can chrono boost that like your first stalker or something like that. And that's it. From then on, you're only chrono boosting charge. And then any chrono boost you have that's excess after charge, chrono boost a gateway to make zealots faster. That's the whole build. And you make your council like somewhere proxied on the map, like on the corner of the map or something, and then you make your proxy pylon that's designed for the proxy gateway outside of where his third base should be, where you think he's going to expand. And then and you could even like have I would say scouting with a probe is a little scary, because if he sees it with an overlord and watches you go to the left to a proxy spot, he might be like, oh, let me go check that. So maybe don't scout him again with a probe once you leave his base initially, so you can conceal the proxy.
Right. Or go back towards mid map and then go south.
Yeah, or you can even have your Void Ray go check for the third. That'd also be totally fine. Because you're not taking your third. You can take your Void Ray to check your third initially, and then immediately go check his third, and be like, "Where's yours?" Like, so you clear yours out to make him think that you might be expanding, so it looks more like legit that you're taking a macro base, like an expansion. But then suddenly your Void Ray's at his base, and he's like, "Oh, he's attacking my third right now," and then you don't even need to commit to it. You'd be like, "Oh, there's your third, so I know where it is now," and then you're just cranking fucking zealots. And you just literally never stop cranking zealots. The big one there is you just want to make sure you don't supply block. That's why you really want to not make probes anymore, because you're going to explode fucking zealots. So you probably need to, like, oversupply yourself by, like, 30. Or, like, maybe even 40. So you'd want to make, like basically, you'd want to make, like, 7 gates, right? Like, in total. So you'd have, like, 4 in, like, your main base, 2 at your natural wall, and, like, 1 proxied. And you'd want to probably have, at that point in time, when you, like, start making your gates, you're probably going to have, like, I would say, like a 20 supply cushion, because you're not going to have a ton of pylons. You're going to have the pylon in your main. You're going to have a pylon in your natural wall. You'll have a pylon for the Stargate. You'll have a pylon for the proxy, or for the 4 gates in your main base. So that's already 4 pylons. You'd have a proxied pylon for the council, and you'd have a proxy pylon for the gateway. That's like 6 pylons now. You'd probably want to make another, like, 5 pylons right there in, like, your main base or something. Not at the proxy, but, like, make just, like, 5 more at that point in the game, so that as your gateways are finishing, you increase your supply cushion by, like, an extra, like, 40 or something, or, like, 30 plus. And then you just fucking go ham after that. So, does that fully make sense?
Yeah, that all makes sense.
Okay.
The only time if I don't see, yeah, I would use that, you know, kind of probably reactively, generally speaking.
The all-in?
All in, yeah. You
I...
know, if I see no third, when
It's
I'm
too...
checking,
Honestly,
then
it's... I just... sorry to
too late
interrupt
at
you,
that point.
but it's too late, yeah. You need... If, like, you're still in the mindset of non-committing to zealots. It's a premeditated
Right.
thing. If you're going to go zealots, you do it from the start of the game. Because if the longer you wait on it, the more it's going to fail. Like, it needs to be something that you just go, I'm fucking doing it. This guy, he expects me to probably expand. I'm doing it. Because it looks like an expansion. And then it hits fucking hard when it's not. And if they pretend like, or if not pretend, but if they assume you're expanding and they don't really fully make the effort to figure it out, they die. That's how it should feel. So it's something you need to do from the start.
And forcing myself to do all-ins is probably good practice, because I don't do them very often.
Yeah, I would say, if you're definitely more of a macro player, I would say do it 20% of the time. Like, do it like 1 out of 5 games. Don't do it every game. But yeah, definitely do it a little bit here and there, because it makes you also, especially if you play against the same guy multiple times, it makes you unpredictable, and it makes it harder to deal with you, because you start making them go, oh fuck, okay, well now I have to play safe. Like, I have to invest into protecting myself and invest into scouting and things like that. And it makes it to where, like, they can't just be so greedy against you, because they know exactly what you're going to do every single time.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
And it's really good too, because it's a build that looks the same either way. So I'll do the macro version. And just before we get into it, do you want to see a macro version that goes into, like, Colossus and the Skytoss that I was talking about, or do you just want to see, like, the Charge of the Ark and Immortal version where...
The Colossus one, I think, is a little more interesting.
Okay.
The CAI one, I think I can see in my
Sure.
head pretty
Okay.
easily.
We'll do the Colossus version. Okay, so we set up our base. We'll show you the pylon as well. What I mean by the pylon, with where to build it on the ramp with perfect placement. So again, you want the pylon field to be barely touching both sides, just like that. That's perfect pylon.
Okay.
So it's the pylon field's barely touching both sides. It's like just a little bit off.
Yeah, it's 1 hex back instead of on.
Yep.
I've been building my pylon 1 hex forward, basically, further forward than I should be.
Yeah.
Been as I have it.
Okay, so we can do what you did here. We'll just do the same thing. It's all good. I'll just, like, go to the natural and back up. Or if there's no natural, you can just go into the main and see what's going on. It's fine.
Yeah, very easy AIs.
Yeah.
I have no idea
Yeah, it's all good. Let's not react to that like it's a pool first, because I mean,
Right.
this is a macro build, right? because nothing's gonna happen anyways. But yeah, so now we're gonna take our natural at 20. We're gonna take our core, and now we can set the core up with the overlap.
You set the core up with the overlap, or you set it
do.
back in the...
I do not do corner and then fill in the middle. I always do first buildings together and then fill in the last part in the end. You're gonna have more of a fucked up wall more often if you do corner first, and then try to fill in the last part at the end.
So you usually do corner and then the middle, and then use a basically just fake building a pylon to count hexes to make sure I'm putting it in exactly the right spot, and while I'm waiting for the minerals for the core anyway.
So just keep in mind. Or go ahead, sorry.
I do that to protect the core more in case there's a circling flood.
So the core right now is in a spot where the gateway won't go to the left; it'll go to the bottom of it. So the core is still relatively protected. It's like every building has about 3 to 4 spots open on it, and the core, it's like the chances of the core dying are super low, because one thing that you should be doing anyways against Zerg is you should be building a shield battery, especially with a build like this. So like once you can afford your base like this, once you have like a little bit money to spare, you literally just throw it on a fucking battery, because this makes it to where you're basically impossible to kill right now. And you really need this too, because you're doing a very greedy build that is going to be taking your third ridiculously fast. So if he does attack you at all, you're not going to have army. So like if you don't have a battery, you're going to die anyways, even if you protect the core, is what I mean.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And you just have a guaranteed perfect wall this way. You're not going to fuck it up. Okay, so we're making adepts with this. And again, we're going to make about 5. So we started the 1 out of our first gateway, which means that we have 2 paired together, and we'll have about 2 more popping after the next 2. And this will protect... Oh my god, I got supply blocked. I'm actually not building a pylon. That's my bad. But we're going to keep making voids as well. And we're going to go take our third right now, around 4 minutes. And this is just like a super defensive, protected expansion. Okay, so let's go ahead and take our third. Now we have 3 adepts escorting this probe to our third base. Then we put our pylons in a way where we can have adepts tucked in the sides here. Kind of like this. And kind of like this right here. So those adepts now are really hard to kill. And then our last 2 adepts can be made right here while we're still making voids. And with this kind of a build, you want to definitely be chronomissing your probes as much as possible. And now our gateways are done. Make 2 more adepts. We can now take a battery at our third base because the pylons are done. Our next void ray is coming out. And this is the moment when you could be like, cool, okay, I'm pretty much ready to go attack now. I can send out my adepts to go attack. I can send my void rays to go attack. And my next warping can once again protect my base while we also make another void ray. And this time you can make like whatever you want to make. I'm going to pause it really fast and I would say this. This is what I would tell you to do, okay? With this build specifically, where you're going to be going for Colossus really fast, I would say after you make 5, like the 1 Stalker first, and then you make 5 Adepts, go back into making Stalkers until you make about 10 Stalkers. Just like 10 more. And the reason why is because if you're making Colossus this fast, and your opponent is going for ridiculously fast Spire instead, and let's say you don't get into his base and see the Spire, with your voids really fast, and he just has it in a spot that you don't see, you will fucking die if you don't have Stalkers right now, because you don't have enough time to make Phoenixes and react. If you're like, oh wait, what the fuck? There's like 10 mutants at my base right now. But the Stalkers will definitely help you there. The Stalkers will also help a lot against roach pushes, and it will also help better than Zealots versus Hydras because they'll stay further back. It's range on range again, where they're in a concave that's in front of the Colossus at max range from the Hydra, so they won't die as fast. So the Colossus get more time to do damage without the Stalkers dying so quick because they're not Zealots. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to
the most frequent way that I die in, like, when I lose with this build, it's almost always to Muta.
Yeah, so Stalkers are going to help with that a lot. So we're going to make Stalkers. We're going to make like 10 of them. And then that's going to take us into the moment where we're now going to go into more Stargates, and we're going to just literally fucking go crazy Stargate, and then we'll go back into Zealots with charge later for the thing we talked about the counterattacks and shit like that. So just to protect our third, it's going to be some Stalkers mixed with some Voids and Colossus. And this will crush the fuck out of people who go for Hydra all-ins on you, which is all, like, I would say super common from Zerg. That is actually ridiculously common. A lot of Zergs play that way.
Game resumed.
Okay, so now our third setup, we'll take our gas. Robo is almost done, so we're gonna get ready to take our what's it called? Our
Facility? Robo facility?
yeah, thank you. Sorry,
Robo
I was like
bay?
trying to build my building and not fuck it up. Yeah, our Robo Bay.
No worries.
Okay, and we'll transfer probes to the gas. Transfer a couple probes to the third now, and start saturating the third fully. And then here comes our Robo Bay. Okay, and then again, this is the moment when like your Adepts and Voids can be doing damage, whatever you want to do with them. I suggest putting them in a different control group, like Voids on 2 or something, or whatever makes you happy, whatever you feel comfortable with. But like harass with Adepts in the middle line and have Void Rays go somewhere else and harass as well. It's super, and if you do it really well, you could actually fuck Zerg over heavily in this part of the game. And then behind this, we're still making Void. You can make one Observer while you wait for your Robo Bay. This way you can start killing creep if you want to with your Voids. Like, your Voids can stay active and kill creep while you're making Colossus defensively, and you can always recall the Voids back if he attacks you. Okay, and then we can, now at this point, we can now go into, we have a fully saturated third. We're starting to make Colossus. You can Chrono Boost out your first Colossus. That way, if this guy decides he wants to attack you, you're not just gonna die. You can also get Colossus range. Take your saturated bases here. And now, I'm gonna pause the game one more time, okay? This is a judgment call based on what you see the Zerg looks like he's doing. If you're scouting around with your Adepts and your Voids, your Adepts might die early, which is totally, they might die to some Zerglings or something in Queens. That's very possible. But your Voids shouldn't die. But your Voids should be able to see, this is what you want to scout at this point in the time. If you haven't, in the around 6 minutes, like 5:45 to 6 minutes, okay? I should have said this while we were doing it, but like basically around the time when you're getting ready to make the choice of, okay, my third base is like 15 plus probes on it and I need to go to 22 to fully saturate it. Do I want to make a fourth base, or do I want to make more gateways? And what would make sense would be if the Zerg is really low on drones, okay? You want to look at his third compared to your third at that time. If you're like, wow, you don't have any fucking drones, make gateways, or you're going to die, probably. Because you need more units to help cover and buffer for your Colossus and your Void. But if the Zerg player has a good amount of drones, just like what you have on your third base, it means he is being greedy just like you are. He's making enough to protect himself, but he doesn't have enough to all-in you. And if that's the case, take a fourth first, but either way, you're going to make more production shortly after. Okay, so it's not like you're going to delay it super far. It's just you probably want to delay the fourth a little bit and prioritize some more units first if he's going fucking all in right now. Because if he's going to do it like a big-ass Hydra attack and he's only got like 8 drones on his third when you have as many as I do right now, and you're like, okay, he's just making like 16 Hydras right now, and now he's starting to move out on the map and more Hydras are flooding behind it. You need to continue to Chrono Boost your Colossus there, and you need to probably throw down some gateways to help protect your third base. Like, put it in front of it so it buys not only your third base time to not get focused as easy, but also they'll become active and you can warp in Stalkers and shit like that out of it afterwards. So that's huge with the Void Rays right now. You'd want to, and if you don't know either way, I would say, honestly, just take your fourth. If you're confused and you're like, I don't know what he's doing, just take your fourth base and call it a day, because it's better to take a risk a little bit and try to macro your way out of it than it is to play too safe when you didn't need to and fall behind. So if you know what's going on and you know he's aggressive, make gateways. And when I say make gateways, literally just make like 4. Don't make like 20 or something. Make like just 4 more. And if he's not super aggressive, take your fourth first and then make like 4 more gateways. And then that's when you also take your Forge, your Council, and you can start a second gateway or a second Stargate and your Fleet Beacon. All of it, like really close together, because you're exploding your economy like crazy right now. So how are you feeling about that?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that all makes sense.
Okay, so we'll do the macro version, the fourth base version, and then we'll explode everything after, really shortly after. So now that we're saturated on the 3rd, we're going to take our 4th base, like up here, which is fine. We'll keep making another Void Ray because we're not ready to switch off of it yet. We'll keep making Stalkers as well. And we'll keep making Colossus as well. In just a second. Okay, we're a little bit supply blocked for just a second too, which is, that'll be fixed momentarily. Make a pylon up here or something. Okay. And then now, Colossus is made. All of our buildings are pumping full power here. Pylons are finishing. Everything's going well. Chrono boost our probes one more time. And now we can go into what we just said. So we can be like, okay, cool. Let's go gateway. 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 Solid V. And then our main base, let's get a 2nd Stargate and a fleet beacon. And then shortly after, once we do another round of units really fast. So let's, again, always prioritize units. Don't just prioritize buildings for a long time. Maybe make a battery here, though. That's it. That is important to make a battery there. Go back to making Stalkers again. We have a Colossus in production. We have a Void in production. Stalker just got made. Now go back and finish off our last bit of tech. Get our Forge and our Council. And we can hockey over the building we just made, too, of the other gateway. The other gateways and the other Stargate. And now we can transfer, like, a bunch of probes to our 4th base because it's finishing. And our probes are pretty much done now. We're going to be, like, in the 80s. So we're looking great. We can take our gases here, really, like, right off the bat because now we need a lot of gas because we're exploding our tech. Make another Colossus. Now stop making voids. And once you start making so we're up to a total of 7 Stalkers, okay? Let's just make like 3 more or whatever. If you stop at 7 or if you stop at 10 or whatever, it's fine. But the point I'm trying to make with the Stalkers is you want to make them until you start making Carrier. And now that we're making Carrier, you could be like, cool, well now let's start investing our gas into Carrier. And let's start investing our minerals now into Zealots. And you can take your gas at your 4th. You can even take another base now because your main's mining out. So this would be fine. Because again, this is a defensive as fuck build for now. You're super passive while you set up your transitions and you're being super safe about it. Get weapon upgrades on your Forge and get, you can start chrono boosting upgrades. Get charge and also now at the same time start weapon upgrades on your core. Behind this as well, you want to start your Templar Archives. You can take another base down here. Because again, your main base looks like shit now. And then yeah, you're at this point now you can continuously, if you have the means to do it, you could keep poking his creep with voids or something. If you feel like you need to be extra safe here, you can always start making some cannons to supplement your defense a little bit, because you're not really going to be making gateways out in the front of your bases anymore. You will make a few more gateways, but not yet. It's too early to make gateways right now. So I'd say just to be extra safe, you could be like, right now, you could just go, okay, how about I go 2 cannons and a battery at every base? Just to be extra safe. So we're looking for 2 cannon, 1 battery at every base. So every base already has a battery. Just add 2 cannons to it. This will help with link run buys. It'll help with little muta harassment early on. And right now, we're already at 3 Colossus. You could stop at 3 or go up to 4 Colossus. Either way is fine. It's if the guy is really heavy on the ground and he's attacking constantly, probably go to 4. If he's passive as fuck like this, probably stop at 3. Because you don't want to overdo your supply. And now that you're in a situation where you're getting ready to max out, this is super important, okay? Super, super, super important. Now we're going to make more production to deal with our bank that we're going to generate that is now oversupply. So we're going to make a few more gateways and we're going to make a few more Stargates. Specifically, we're going to make about like 4 more of each. So we're going to we already have 6 gates. We're going to take ourselves up to about 10 gateways. And we're going to make ourselves like 4 more Stargates, and we already have 2, so we're going to go to a total of 6 Stargates. And the reason why this is important is because now all we're doing out of our gateways is we're going to make Zealots if we ever dump our supply a little bit too low too fast, like if we take too much of a trade, and we're going to prioritize 6 Stargates first to just go crazy into Skytoss with first. So what we're going to do now is we're going to really start, if we've already been shoving the Zerg's Creep with Void Rays into Observer, that's great. But if we haven't, now we're going to start really shoving the creep a bit more. And we're never going to try to take real fights against Zerg. And at this point, too, you can take your Zealots out of your army, which I'm going to do in just a second, and you can do a counterattack. Like, just like so. So if I go, okay, I'm going to prioritize the south of the map with the creep first with my army, and I'm going to now attack the north of the map with my Zealots instead. So you can go back to your base, you can chrono boost your upgrades once again. And we're not looking for a big fight here. We're not looking to trade our army to death here. We're just, again, trying to kill creep and be super annoying and protect our bases, you know, set up our macro game here. Because, again, we're switching into carriers. So Zealots could be attacking a different base while we push creep on over here. If we get Zerg's attention, we can always attack, back up, attack, back up, attack, back up, disengage. Zealots come over here and fuck a base up. You know, or if the Zerg is over here defending Zealots, shove a base and kill it while you know you have time. And just push creep, kill creep. And then don't be afraid if you're like, huh, okay, well, let's just say Zerg has, you know, Zerg is like super turtly, and I killed the base and he's not really engaging me, and I want to use my gateways. 100% feel free to go, okay, how about I just get rid of some of my shit units over here that suck, and I'll replace, like, get rid of your Zealots and Stalkers now. Stalkers now, at this point in the game, blow ass. And you'd be, ideally, again, like we said, you would have made your 4 gateways and your 4 Stargates. And then you're now getting ready to go into more Stargate production with carriers and continuously getting your upgrades on your shit here. And then the last thing, okay, we didn't talk about this, but this is actually super good. Once you get all this production, absolutely make that building the Dark Shrine. Because if you make a Dark Shrine... What's up, sorry?
Yeah. I was just about to ask if you would make a Dark Shrine.
Yeah. So the reason why you make a Dark Shrine is just because it 100% destroys base trade Zergs. So the Dark Shrine is like, it's just like cannon battery. It's a major positive cover when you have a really immobile army, which is carrier. It allows you to warp in DTs wherever the Zerg is trying to, like, especially if they are like trying to counter you with like ultras or some shit. Like, it fucking owns. It covers the cannons or like mass hydras. It helps cover the cannons if DTs are there. But everything we just did is literally the whole game. From this point on, all you do is try to make your composition be like 4 Archons. 4 or 5 Archons is great. Make your army composition also have about 6 to 8 Templar is great. And then the rest of your army is like 2 Observers and mass carriers. So eventually, when your Void Rays start to die, don't rebuild them. Just literally remake carriers. And then you could also make a Mothership too. That'd be fine. And then try to never probe above the 80s. So like 84, 85, 86, 82. Those are all fine. Just don't go to like 96 probes. That's a bit fucking excessive. And try to not dip into like the 70s or the 60s until the map is more or less mined out. Like, definitely you want to mine fast because you want to take bases and cannon them. Because it's just as scary for Zerg when you have an army as it is when you have a fully cannoned up and batteried base. Because you're denying expansions from Zerg. So, like, be very aggressive about expanding against Zerg too. Like, every time a base starts mining out, take it to the base and cannon it up and battery it. And the proper amount to have for that is probably like 5 batteries and like 10 cannons at your new outer bases.
Okay. That's more than I usually do. I usually do like 6 cannons and 2 or 3 batteries. So
yeah.
That's
definitely make a decent amount. That way you don't lose that area.
Yep.
Because if
this makes sense. So,
yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
And you're using the Archons and the High Templar with Storm to deal with like Corruptor stacking, as opposed to remaking Voids.
Yeah, Voids are shit at that point. Honestly, they're so much worse than Archon Storm. Like for the supply that you are provided, Archon Storm is 1,000 times better than Void Ray. The only time a Protoss should ever go Void Ray against Corruptor is if they're just like foregoing all ground and they're a pure air. And that's just the kind of player they are. They're like, I'm going to go mass Voids and a mass Carrier, and I'm going only air units all game. Then you kind of do need Void Rays to deal with Corruptor. But if you're going for a hybrid, which is the stronger version, honestly, it is just... one Archon does more damage than 1 Void, and they're the same supply. And 2 Templars do more damage than 1 Void, and they're the same supply. And if you have Voids plus those things, you're going to have way too little carriers to actually push anything.
Gotcha. Yeah, usually I tend to prioritize Voids over Archons because Voids can keep up with the Corruptors, and Archons are slower then.
Yeah, I think chasing...
But wait,
sure.
Keeping him in a ball probably makes more sense anyway.
Well, you want him to come to you anyways, because he needs to come to you, because if he doesn't, his base is dying.
Yep.
Because if you have the idea of chasing him around your base, that's why cannons exist, right? So if he's chasing you around if he's running around your base, and you have cannons all over your bases, he's gonna get pounded by cannons, and you can shield battery heal your base with like an overcharge, and it really makes the caustic spray do, like, it takes way longer for your base to die against caustic spray if that's also what he's doing. And you can also chase him around your base with carriers too, and a mothership, and like your temple. Like every time he engages you, you storm the fuck out of him, and you hit him with your Archons, and every time he runs away, there's just, he's not doing anything anyways, it doesn't matter. And when he's at his base, every time he's not attacking you and he's running away, his base is dying. And then when he is attacking you, he's engaging into a fucking death ball, and he's just getting pounded.
makes sense.
All right, man.
Thank
Well,
you.
I will save this replay and I'll send it to you, and then I'll edit this VOD out later tonight, and I'll have it posted by tomorrow night. But dude, thank you again for doing a lesson, and I wish you the best of luck.
Appreciate it.
Any final questions about anything before we wrap it up?
I think I've got a lot to absorb, and I'll probably have more questions by the time we have our next session.
Okay. All right, man. Well, have a good rest of your night, and thanks for doing this coaching session.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, take it easy.
Later.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching the coaching lesson. That has been our lesson for the day, and that was a diamond level lesson. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm gonna save that replay right there so I can send that over. But if you guys liked it, don't hesitate to check out more videos. I have many videos just like this. I coach a bunch of people and a bunch of different leagues. I always title the league too as to what league I'm doing. So much love. Thanks for your time. I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever it might be. And good luck. Have fun. See you next time. Later, guys.